especially my 20s, like there's this urgency to like get everything accomplished. Like, oh, I want to have my own house and I want to have 2 cars by then, like by 23. Like, I'm not saying you can't do that, but it's like, it's crazy how our mentalities back then kind of changed. Like, I'm still very ambitious, but things just don't go the way that you plan it most of the times. But I see like these trends of like, oh, I wasted my 20s. I should have done this. I could have lived my life. And I'm like, most of the stuff that you want to do in your 20s, like you couldn't have done anyways because you're fucking broke, bro. Like, you don't have money. I didn't get to travel in my 20s. You were broke. You were poor.
You're broke! You're fucking poor!
Like, you you didn't have any money to do the things that you want to do anyways. Like, you can't call something a waste. If you had the money and you had the resources to do the things you wanted to do, and you couldn't, then you can make the case for that. But you can't look at the scenario and go, oh, I want to go to Thailand and stay there for a month and it would have costed me 3K, but I've only been working minimum wage and, you know, saving every penny I can for a car. You didn't waste that time. Like, you did what you had to do. You know what I mean? Most of the time, you're not wasting your 20s. You're collecting experience, hopefully. And that's not a waste of time. I tried YouTube before. I've tried trading before. I'm still in the trading field, like investments. Like, that's my actual job right now. But I tried a bunch of different things in my 20s that didn't pan out. But when I look back on it, it was like, the reason why I have the job that I do today, which is a pretty good job, is because the accumulation of information I've gained along the way, right? So it's not like I'm coming empty-handed. It's like, no, I have all this experience and now I can cash it in for something else. Same thing's gonna happen with like entrepreneurship. It's very unlikely that you're going to hit it on your first attempt. A lot of guys make it on their 5th attempt, but it's not random. There are 4 years of failure, or sorry, there are 4 business failures before that. The experience that they've gained from it, they can put it in their 5th one, and now they're like, okay, I've seen this before, I can avoid it. I've done this before, they were successful, I can do more of this. There's traps and stuff that an amateur would fall for, but I've already seen that, so I can avoid. That's what experience does, but experience comes from you trying, right? And typically your 20 years are for trying. So if that's what you're doing, don't look at it like a failure. Like, you're gaining experience, you're gaining knowledge, and eventually if you apply it right to the right thing, that's when you see that collision of success typically. It's like, I'm hitting all the right strides. Same thing with fitness, bro. Same thing with fitness. You don't think like, I went all these different phases, like you go through diet phases, like, oh, keto and paleo and intermittent fasting and carnivore diet and vegan. Like, most people go through so much of that to finally get to a position where they're like, okay, this is the thing. But it took them 5 different types of diets to figure it out, right? Same with working out. Like, I didn't start working out at 24 and then like figured it out. I was like, oh, you go to the gym, work out. Oh, I put on some muscle, that's nice, but how come I stopped? Why am I plateauing? Oh, like, you're not focusing on my muscle connection. Okay, let's do that. Okay, well, now I feel like I'm getting more progress, but I'm stuck in the same place. Okay, we're not increasing the weight. So, okay, I'll increase the weight now. Now I feel like I'm not growing again. Are you resting enough? Are you sleeping? You're not even eating enough protein. There's so many things that experience is going to give you that only trying over time is going to reveal to you. Like, so if I were to have the body that I have now, which is decent, but it's not done, but it's decent. If I were to say, oh, well, I wasted my 20s because I didn't have the body back then that I have now. It's like, no, like, you had to go through that phase to learn everything in order to get the body that you want now, or in order to get the body that you have now, right? So don't look at it like a waste. Again, I think the only way it's a waste is if you legitimately just did nothing. Just sat on the couch, did nothing for your 20s. That would be a waste to me, but I don't think the average person is doing that. I think the average person is going to school or getting a trade. I think the average person is trying to move up in the workplace, for example. I think the average person, I'm not saying everyone's like super entrepreneurial or ambitious, but I think the average person is trying something, right? And I think they're very unaware that they have a lot of knowledge that they've accumulated. Even I did the same thing. I'm like, when I went back to my resume, when I went back to all the things I've tried, I'm like, oh, like, you actually have a lot of experience in different things that people would be interested in, right? Like finance, photography, fitness, relationship experience. Like, there's actually a lot. I'll leave with this. Like, there's a time I went to a party. I didn't go to parties often, but I got invited to a party one time. And I remember just sometimes you feel like you're not that interesting of a person. I remember in that party, there were stories that I was telling where 8 people were surrounding me listening to the story and so engaged. Like, they were asking this question, and I'm like, oh, like, you do have an interesting past. Sometimes you just forget, right? So the same thing with I wasted my 20s. a lot of times you just need to go back and look like, okay, well, what's the experience you gained from that? And then when you go down the list, you'll be like, oh, I actually know a lot. I've actually gained a lot of experience. It wasn't a waste. I just need to find a way to cultivate that and package it into something that's beneficial in the future so I can leverage it, right?